Hey, what's up, everyone? What's up? What's up, everyone? Hope you're all having a great day. Everyone that is connecting, I hope you're having a great day. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about overcoming fear, more specifically, uh, overcoming the fear of public speaking, overcoming the fear of public speaking. So if you face this fear, definitely let me know. Let's connect. Let's chat here today. Again, we're talking about overcoming the fear of public speaking as you connect. So happy that you can be here, Holly, Mercy. Thank you so much for being connected. Talking about overcoming fear of public speaking. And who am I to be able to talk about the fear of public speaking? Well, I am a personal growth strategist. What that means is that I work with individuals on establishing the appropriate mindset and strategy in order for them to accomplish their goals. But furthermore, who am I to even talk about this particular subject? Well, I'm someone who has been doing public speaking since the age of 15. The age of 15, I started doing public speaking, and my first experience of standing in front of a crowd to give any type of exhortation, any type of speech. I remember that particular evening, the lights went out. I was in I was in Puerto Rico, and I lived there for a couple years. But in that particular time when I was there, I did public speaking or initiated my career in public speaking. And I remember I was standing at the podium. They said, "Here's Miguel." I come up, I salute everyone. "Hi, how are you? How's it going?" And as I'm diving into the topic, the lights went out. My first experience public speaking, lights go out. And of course, now everybody is kind of scrambling, figuring out what to do, and we're live, we're going, and so they tried to get different forms of way that at least people can see me, and I could maybe see my notes or something. And that was my first experience at the age of 15, standing in front of a crowd, maybe of 15, 20 people. So it wasn't a huge crowd, but nevertheless, the number of individuals didn't matter. When those lights went off, I was nervous. I was like, this is not the way it should have gone. And, fast forward now, having done it for over 2 decades, I've been able to speak in front of multiple crowds, multitude of crowds. I've been able to speak virtually, rather it be in location or otherwise. And so I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to do that. And I am familiar with the process of nervous that we go through and the multiple nerves that we go through. In fact, with reference to being able to speak in public, I want you to know that if you're feeling that way, you're not the only one who fears speaking in public. This is actually something that affects 40% of the population in the United States of America, this fear of speaking in public. And it's even more than a fear, it's an anxiety. It's an anxiety that actually traps you and holds you back. It's a moment where you start feeling maybe your palms are sweaty or you can't even get the words together. Maybe you start feeling dizzy or queasy, or you start feeling as though you're going to, bring up last week's dinner. I mean, it really becomes a situation where I even know individuals who, in the moment in which they're about to speak, they get so nervous where they just look for the nearest exit and run off stage. And so the question that we're looking at today is how to overcome the fear of public speaking, right? How do we overcome this anxiety? Because public speaking is something we can all take advantage of. We have applications such as Facebook or YouTube or even Instagram, or this application Wisdom, where it allows us to be able to communicate with individuals. And ideally, as you communicate and as you share your message, you would want the platform to become bigger, the audience to become bigger. Why? Because the bigger the audience, the bigger your impact. And so you want to have an impact on people. You want to share your story because there's somebody that could relate with you right now that feels the same way you felt in your situation. And when they hear your message from your point of view, from your perspective, your voice gives them voice. That's one thing to note, that your voice gives voice to the voiceless. So this idea of, oh well, I'm too afraid to speak in public. I guess I'll leave it alone. I'll never do it. The truth is that you should want to overcome the fear of public speaking, because it may be the one thing that's holding you back from your promotion. It may be the one thing that's holding you back from reaching a bigger audience. It may be the one thing that's holding you back from actually having an impact. And so too often we look at the next hill to climb, and we see it too big. We see it too much, too insurmountable. And we say, forget it. I'm not going to do it. And so if public speaking for you is a mountain that you've been looking at, and you're like, I can deal with a one-on-one, but when I get in front of 10 people, when I get in front of 20 people, when I get in front of 1,000 people, which is a lot of people, the truth is that if your knees buckle, your palms sweat, and at that moment you can't find the words, and all you're looking for is the nearest exit. And I want to share with you some ways that you can today overcome the fear of public speaking. I definitely want to greet some of you that are walking in right now, joining the group. And so I want to thank you, MT Stevenson, for joining the group. Bloody, thank you so much for being here. Terrain, thank you so much for being here. And so we are talking today about overcoming fear of public speaking. And it's an important one, because your voice matters. People want to hear what you have to say. Oftentimes we think nobody cares about what I have to say. But as I mentioned, your voice gives voice to the voiceless. And again, 40% of the population in the United States of America are affected by this feeling that I'm going to be spotted out. I'm going to be given the mic to speak. I'm going to be given the platform, and I'm not going to have the appropriate words, the appropriate tone. And so the first thing we have to do is begin to redefine fear. This is how we start overcoming fear of public speaking. We have to redefine fear. And again, if you're asking yourself, okay, Miguel, well, who are you to talk about the fear of public speaking? I'm someone who's been speaking for over the last 20 years. I've been doing public speaking. I've done it virtually. I've done it in person with youth, with older individuals, with couples. Right now, I'm doing a group series about how to gain perspective and how to have a 190-degree thinking. And so I understand the nervousness that comes by way of actually standing in front of people and giving a speech, and trusting that you have sufficient notes, sufficient material that is going to be impactful. I've mentored individuals in this area. So how do we do this? How do we overcome fear of public speaking? How do we stand in front of people and share our message? The first thing we need to do is redefine fear. This is where it starts. Redefine fear. Okay, and when we begin to redefine it, we're then going to be able to overcome it. So trembling hands are a simple shot of adrenaline, right? That shot of adrenaline that you're getting ready to take the stage, and that you're getting ready. It's almost like standing in front of a roller coaster. And when you stand in front of a roller coaster, you hear the people screaming at the distance, but there's a level of nervousness that begins to just rise up. That adrenaline begins to pump in your body. So we now have to reframe the fear as to, it's not this big old boogie monster, right, that wants to kill you, but rather it's a mood booster that increases your determination while narrowing your focus. This is fear. It's a mood booster that increases your determination while narrowing your focus. You should be able to look ahead as to what's happening. So again, imagine you're in line towards a roller coaster. Imagine you're hearing the people screaming, and everybody seems to be jovial. The people talk about the roller coaster. Those are excited about the ride. They're excited to get on it. And now it's your turn. And so your palms are sweaty. Your friends and family are waiting to get on the roller coaster. The people around you are hyping you up, but it's time to sit on the roller coaster. And when you sit on the roller coaster, you hear that click, clink. You feel the pressure of that seatbelt that comes down over your shoulders. Now the roller coaster is starting to move. And of course, they take you high to the point where it almost seems like your nose touches the clouds. And as you're facing the clouds, you know that on the other side there is a massive drop. The nervousness you feel at this point is your body communicating with you. And what your body is telling you is what is about to happen is out of your control. So we're redefining fear because we want to overcome the fear of public speaking. But the first thing we need to do is redefine fear. This fear that I feel when I'm on a roller coaster isn't is not just, I can't run away now. I'm in it. But it needs to be something that you understand that that fear is actually your body telling you what is about to happen is something I cannot control. Likewise, when you talk about a moment when you're doing public speaking and you're standing in front of the crowd and your palms are sweaty and your knees are buckling and maybe you feel like you got a frog lodged in your throat, instead of looking for the nearest exit because you feel this fear, you should be able to take a deep breath. And you may have even heard people tell you this. Hey, take a deep breath, relax. In the moment of frustration, irritation, take a deep breath, relax. And it's because in those moments of high intensity, those moments of high emotion, the one thing we forget to do is the easiest thing. And think about breathing in this past few moments that we've been conversing here. Have you even thought about breathing? No, you've just been doing it. But in those moments of high pressure, in those moments of high intensity, it's the moments where the first thing we forget to do is the easiest thing. So saying breathe when you feel fear or feel anxiety or your knees are buckling and your palms are sweating and you're wondering, is this going to work out? Telling someone to breathe is actually not a bad thing. It's actually something you want to do. So you're standing on stage and the crowd is ready and they're all looking at you. You may feel nervous. You may be looking for the door, but I want you to know that the fear that you're feeling is just your body telling you what is about to happen is something you can't control. This is not a bad thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing if you have prepared. A very interesting fact about the word failure is that oftentimes we attribute it to the outcome, but failure has less to do about the outcome and more to do with the preparation. Listen to me. Failure has less to do with the outcome and more to do with the preparation. And so why is it that people feel fear when trying to attempt to communicate to a large group? Oftentimes the fear is a byproduct of feeling as though they have not prepared adequately. Like you wonder, do I have enough material? Do I have enough content? Is it going to make sense? Is it going to flow? Are people going to understand me? Are they going to catch what I'm saying? Or am I just going to be talking to myself? These are thoughts that begin to settle in that moment. But if you have prepared the information and you know the topic, then at that moment, the nervousness that you'll still feel, because that's the thing, nervousness isn't going to go away. But the nervousness at that point could be something that you can calm yourself by reminding yourself, I have prepared. I have prepared for this moment. Speaking of which, when we talk about imposter syndrome is the idea that you don't belong in the room or in the place you're in. And one way to combat imposter syndrome is again to remind yourself, I belong where I am. I am ready for this moment. I am ready for this opportunity. And again, when we talk about failure, it's not about the end result. It's actually about the process, the preparation. So when you look at the etymology of the word failure, it has more to do with the preparation. We often attribute it to the end result. We say you either succeed or you fail. That's not actually where that lies. Because how many times have you maybe even taken a test and you study, and you think, I got this, I'm going to ace this. And then instead of getting an A, you get a B. Instead of getting 100, you get 98. And some people say, well, I aimed for 100, I got 98, I must have failed. Hey, 98 isn't that bad. But we attribute failure with end the end of it when truly failure is attributed to the process of preparation. So as you prepare to speak in public, Maybe you're getting ready to stand in front of a crowd to do a presentation at work, or maybe you're getting ready to stand in front of your classmates, or maybe you're getting ready to turn on the camera and go live on Facebook and you have no idea what people are going to say. The first thing you need to do is redefine fear. And failure is not an indication that you're not equipped. Failure is an indication that what is about to happen, you do not have control over. So it's important to know this, because the only thing you have control over is what you do before you touch the stage, what you do before you touch the mic. That's something you can control. You can do the research. You can have conversations. You can dig deep so that when the moment comes, you can at the very least trust the material. I don't know how the crowd is going to react, if they're going to laugh at my jokes, if not, if they're going to understand the material. But this is why it's important to redefine fear. Because even as you're going on up the stairs and getting ready to go on the stage, and even as the spotlight is shining bright on you and all the eyes of the crowd are facing you, this is the moment where you can say, okay, I have appropriately prepared. Of course, in the process of preparation, it is beneficial to know your audience, if you're speaking to youth or to adults, to professionals or otherwise, because then you can actually tailor your information to them. But in certain instances, like if you go live on the Wisdom app, you don't know who's going to be on the other side listening, let alone if you go on any other platform, you're not going to know who's going to be on the other side. As an individual who hosts a podcast, I don't know who's on the other side, right? I go ahead and produce a podcast. I don't know who's on the other side. I have an ideal target audience, but I don't know who's on the other side. So there may be some fear in that. But again, you do the research, you prepare, and then you produce. Let's redefine fear, is what we're trying to do here as we talk about overcoming the fear of public speaking. As I continue on, I just want to go ahead and shout out some people that are joining the group. Hakeem, thank you for being here. Matt, thank you for being here. The Clarity, thank you for being here. Mandy, Malika, thank you for being here. Rev J, thank you for being here. Thank you all for being connected. And we're talking about overcoming fear of public speaking. The first thing you can do is redefine fear. If you redefine fear, that it's not something that paralyzes you, but rather it's an indication that what I'm about to do is something that, hey, I don't have control over. But you know what I did have control? I had control before I prepared. But before I got up to this place, I had control before this opportunity. And that's when I had control. When I was doing the research, when I did long nights and early mornings and nobody saw me preparing. But that right there, that was what I was able to control. In this moment, I may not be able to control how people react, what people say, what people think, but I can at least control that. Now, here's something that I've learned over the years. Again, when I talk about public speaking, I talk about it from the perspective as someone who's been doing public speaking for multiple years. And at the same time, I've had the opportunity to mentor others to be able to stand on stage, to be able to command a room and be able to actually share their message. Because as you share your message, you also help other individuals, right? Your voice gives voice to the voiceless. I want you to understand that your voice gives voice to the voiceless. And so if you understand that, then you try to reframe yourself, your mindset, so that you can actually be able to help those who right now may be hurting, but later on will be able to be conquerors or see themselves as such. One of the things that I've implemented in my life, and I just believe that is so powerful, is the ability, is the tool to be able to meditate and visualize. Meditate and visualize. So again, the first thing you want to do is redefine fear. And the second thing you want to get involved in is meditation and visualization. Now, meditation is well known for its effectiveness of calming the mind. Meditation is simple to, or similar rather, to a mental workout. And that's one way we can visualize or think about meditation. It's similar to a mental workout. It offers you the power and the connection to filter out all of your limiting thoughts, and that you're able to quiet the noise. And you do this by just calming yourself down. You do this by taking a deep breath. And so when we talk about meditation, you want to Actually bring yourself to a moment, maybe to a quiet place. You may even want to listen to white noise. You can go on Spotify, YouTube, you can go anywhere really and find white noise, but you might want to listen to white noise just to kind of block out everything else. And in that moment of meditation, you want to kind of run through, maybe if you have a mantra that you say, or if you have a personal affirmation that you want to say, that's a good moment in that moment of meditation to go ahead and re-strengthen yourself, right? Say some words to build up your confidence, some words that will encourage yourself. This is a healthy habit to get into, even if you're not doing public speaking, of actually meditating on the positive affirmations that you have established. Right? It is a healthy habit to actually start doing that. Now, maybe you don't have a affirmation that you do. I want to share with you the one that I do. I have a positive affirmation that I say in just a moment. I'll share it here with you because I think it'll be beneficial regardless if you're doing public speaking or just in your daily life. So again, one way for us to begin to overcome the fear of public speaking is to redefine fear. The other thing we want to do is start meditating, thinking on the things that we will be doing and thinking on the breakthroughs we've had. Here's one thing that oftentimes we don't realize, that in that moment of meditation, we should be thinking about, okay, I've had favor, I've had positive outcome, I've seen, right, blessings come my way. I've seen that, and that's the type of things we should be thinking in this moment of meditation, because to me, faith looks at the past, what has happened. And then faith does something else. Faith speaks to hope, and hope looks to the future. So this is the way it works out, that when you take a moment to quiet your mind and quiet yourself, and you begin to meditate and actually think on, okay, there were moments that I thought the outcome wasn't going to be beneficial. There were moments that I thought it wasn't going to work out. There was moments where I thought I wasn't going to see the result I wanted to see. So faith is reminding you of all these things, and then hope plugs in, and hope says, yeah, and if it worked out once, it'll work out again, right? Hope says, yeah, and if you saw blessing once, you'll see blessing again. Hope says, yeah, and if you saw favor once, you'll see it again. And so then you begin to get charged up and you say, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready for this moment because I know that I'm going to see a favorable outcome. I know that all things work together for my good. That's the idea of meditation. But the other part is visualization. And I think this is the part where many individuals actually don't go all the way through, because now that you have a clear mind and you're like, okay, I'm ready to get it, I'm ready to go after it, I'm ready to conquer. The other part would be to start visualizing. And when you talk about visualizing, you have to be able to see yourself on stage. So you actually want to see a few different angles when we talk about visualizing. And again, you can apply these rules to anything that you're trying to accomplish. But today we're talking about public speaking. The first thing you want to do is redefine fear. Fear is not an indication that you're going to fail, but rather fear is an indication that what's about to happen, I can't control. I control the preparation, but I don't control what's going to happen now. That's what fear should be looked at as. Once you've redefined fear, then you enter into meditation, where you begin to think about not only what you're about to execute on, but also on those moments maybe that you didn't think it was going to work out, but it did work out, that it did come out to your favor, that it come out to your advantage, that it came out to your benefit. And the next part would be visualizing. And when we talk about visualizing, you want to be able to see different angles. You want to see yourself on the stage. So imagine you're the audience, and on the stage you see yourself. And so that would be that outer body experience, where it's like you look on the stage and you say, okay, I see myself on the stage. Maybe I'm wearing my favorite shirt or my favorite tie or whatever you're wearing, right? And you visualize yourself there. Okay, what would you say? Man, I'd be saying, hello, everyone, how are you? Or I'd be saying XYZ, right? The people would be laughing and they would be getting the jokes, and I'd be hitting on all cylinders. You want to be able to see yourself on stage, feel what the audience would feel. but then you also want to be able to see yourself on stage. And I know that kind of sounds similar, but here's the difference. You want to see yourself on stage from the audience point of view, and then you want to see yourself on stage from the speaker's point of view, meaning you want to be able to visualize what the audience would see when they see you speak. And then you also want to visualize what it's like to see the audience from the speaker's point of view. There's one thing you can't change, and that's your point of view. Like in real life, we can't change our point of view. You have your point of view, and I have my point of view. But what we do have is different perspectives, and our perspective can shift, right? Like if I can only see things through my eyeballs. Like I can't see things through anyone else's eyeballs, but I can gain perspective when you and I enter into a conversation. But when you're visualizing, you can actually have the perspective and the point of view from an audience member. And because you're visualizing, you're using that brain power, and in that moment, you're in the seat of the audience, you have that point of view. But then you can also take the point of view as the individual who's on the stage and sees the crowd listening attentively, sitting at the edge of their chair, leaning forward, holding on to every syllable and vow and word that the individual speaks. Just you want to be able to visualize yourself on all those angles, from the one on the stage to the one in the audience. You want to be able to visualize. Again, redefine fear, begin to meditate, and then begin to visualize. Don't just see yourself on stage. Feel the moment. Visualize it from all angles. See it as a first person experience, and then as an audience member impacted by the speech. In fact, as you conclude with your meditation and visualization, do so as though you were the audience. Or you want to end as though you were the audience and the speaker is exiting the stage, so that you can have this full point of view of when you come on stage, when you speak with the people, and when you, as the speaker, walk away from the stage. And you should be able to feel that. This is why I said maybe listen to some white noise, maybe get yourself into a mode where you're not having Netflix running on the background. Like you want to get clear mind. And so these are tools that I've implemented myself, but I've also helped other individuals implement and actually begin to succeed as public speakers. And as I mentioned, you want to go ahead and set up a positive affirmation. I know positive affirmation for me, as growing up as a Latino, it wasn't something that we did a whole lot or practice or even spoke about in my household as a kid. But as I've gotten older, I've seen the power of positive affirmation. And I want to share with you what my positive affirmation is so that at least you can have an idea. And if you're taking notes, you can write this down. Of course, you can also hit play later on and check this recording out for your benefit. But before I share with you my positive affirmation, let me just shout out some people that are here. Marcianne, thank you for being here. Lindsay, Michael, Andrew, thank you for being here. I got Brother Prider, thank you for being here. Thank you all, man. I'm just so happy that you would all be here connected. And as we continue on the conversation, again, we're talking about overcoming fear of public speaking. We've identified that the first thing you want to do is redefine fear. Fear doesn't mean you're about to fail. Fear is just, or that nervousness rather, is just the indication that what's about to happen, I don't have control over. I don't have control over this, but that's not a bad thing because you prepared, right? So even though while I'm on stage, I don't have control of how the audience is going to react, of what they're going to say, what I do have control and what I did have control over is what I did before this moment, is how I prepared, is how I studied, is how I analyzed, how I had conversations, so that in this moment I can have full perspective of what I'm about to say. So that's number one, redefine fear, redefine that nervousness. The second thing you can do is begin to meditate. We spoke about the relationship between faith and hope, where faith looks at the past, hope looks at the future. So you should be reminded of those moments that you had blessing and breakthrough and providence, and all things worked out in your favor. And you should look to the future saying, okay, I will see blessing again. I will see providence and favor again. And in that, you should then begin to visualize and feel that moment, not just as the individual on the stage, but also as an audience member being impacted by what is being said. You should feel that moment. Like, this isn't something you want to do in 5 seconds. You want to actually see that moment and feel that moment. And a good way to actually see this all the way through is to establish a positive affirmation. Positive affirmation in my life have been powerful, and I've seen it also be effective in many individuals' life. But oftentimes the truth is we don't talk about positive affirmation. And so I want to share with you a positive affirmation that I say to myself, that I at least remind myself in those moments of difficulty. One is very simple. In the moments when things are happening that I don't understand, I just say, okay, all things work together for my good. Show me the good in this. Let me see the good in this. That's a simple, quick prayer you can make in the moments of difficulty. Okay, all things work together for my good. Show me the good in this. Let me see the good in this. That's a simple prayer you can make, but a positive affirmation that I've continued to say in my life in those moments of maybe high difficulty or high challenge, a moment of high intensity. This is a affirmation that I say, and again, feel free to use it either as a template or just as a model for yourself while you begin to develop one. Here's my positive affirmation: no setbacks, just setups. No procrastination, just progress. No distractions, just dedication. No limitations, just breakthrough. No obstacles, just opportunities. I'm strong enough, smart enough, and equipped to manage every blessing that comes my way and be a blessing to those I encounter. That's my positive affirmation. And when I recite that, when I read that, when I say that, it actually just kind of calms me down, and again, it shifts the perspective. Too often we think as, man, I'm facing a setback, and is it a setback or is it a setup? And too often we think, man, I've been delegating and procrastinating and holding back. Okay, we'll move towards progress. And too often we allow ourselves to be distracted. Okay, we'll move towards being dedicated to what you want to see. Too often we think about limitations, and we can't see beyond the horizon. Okay, we'll move towards breakthrough. And breakthrough, by the way, is that aha moment, is that moment where everything clicks. I've been impacted by this this conversation that Michael Jordan had. It's actually part of his documentary, The Last Dance. And there's a moment where he said that he actually did not want to retire from the game of basketball. He retired because the owner wasn't going to re sign Phil Jackson, who was the head coach, and he was planning on trading players. And so, to display his loyalty, Michael Jordan essentially gave the owner an ultimatum. He said, hey, if you trade, if you blow up this team, if you don't re sign, then I will not continue to play. I will leave. And Michael Jordan obviously stood to his word and left. But something very interesting is that Michael Jordan says that when he retired, he actually felt like his knowledge of the game and his skills to play the game had finally matched up. And that's powerful because you would think, well, he won 6 championships nearly back to back to back. So what was he doing all that time? If he felt like his skills and his knowledge were up to par. This is why I don't buy into this idea of fake it till you make it. I believe that you should believe in the knowledge you have, trust in the knowledge you have, trust in the preparation. Eventually, my confidence on my skills will measure up. They're going to measure up. And then when you begin to actually see, when you open your eyes, you're like, whoa, I've been practicing, preparing, I've been doing all these things, and I feel confident in what I know and how to do it. Michael Jordan wasn't faking it till he made it. I don't think there's anyone who would say that. We would acknowledge the fact that he was preparing. This is why I say you can't think about what that moment is going to be. You have to think about the preparation, and failure has little to do with the end result and more to do with the preparation. Too often We stand in a position of promotion. We stand in a position of opportunity, but we also stand in our own way because we fail to prepare. There's a famous saying, which is that if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. But I don't think that failure has anything to do with the outcome. In fact, in the etymology of the word, it has nothing to do with the outcome. It has more to do with the preparation. In fact, the interesting thing is if I begin to ask you, hey, think about the choices you've made. Are you happy with them? Too often we look at the end result as opposed to the choice we made. The choice you make is based upon the understanding you have, based upon the knowledge you have, based upon what you have at your disposal, right? Everything that you have allows you to make the choice you made. Now, was the end result something you were going to be able to control? No. You wanted it to be favorable. In fact, you envisioned it being favorable. You said, this is going to work out regardless. And then it didn't work out the way you wanted to. And too often we say, man, I made a mistake. Well, did you make a mistake? Or did you have all the information and took that information to make a choice? Maybe the end result wasn't what you wanted, but you don't control the end result, just like you don't control what happens when you stand on the stage. But how do we overcome the fear of public speaking? Because here's the thing, when we talk about the fear of public speaking, we're talking about seeing the outcome. That's what fear of public speaking is. In fact, that's what anxiety is. Anxiety is putting our energy that we have today towards things that may or may not happen tomorrow. And too often we do this. We take all of our brain power, all of our energy, and instead of actually preparing, we invest time in thinking the worst. I want you to consider how many times this has happened in your life where instead of actually preparing and instead of actually getting ready for a positive outcome, you simply invested all your energy on what ifs, or maybe it won't work, or people say this, or the naysayers or the haters or everybody around you who said it wasn't possible. It's like, no, like believe in yourself. Listen, if you're here on the Wisdom app, which I know you are, you can check out my talks. And I recently spoke about what is self efficacy. And I want to encourage you to check that out because in that conversation, we mentioned that self efficacy is influenced by those who surround you. So I'll let you check that out. But it has a lot to do when we talk about fear of public speaking. I mean, you can fill in the blank. Like you can remove the phrase public speaking and you can put overcome fear of whatever it is. If you don't redefine fear, if you don't meditate, if you don't visualize, if you don't prepare, that thing that you're fearing to do is going to consistently be a giant that you will not be able to defeat. And the very interesting thing is that there is a story that, regardless of your faith and regardless of your biblical knowledge, everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. You may not know all the details, but I'm sure you've heard the story or the understanding of David versus Goliath, where a small shepherd's boy take on this 8 to 12 feet tall giant who was a champion and still was victorious. And so, you may not know the biblical story. You may not know that David actually put on the armor of the king only to realize that the armor didn't fit him. You may not know the biblical story. You may not know that David had no intention on fighting the giant. He simply went out to the battlefield to bring lunch to his brothers. You may not know the biblical story where David actually just grabbed a slingshot and 5 little stones. You may not know the biblical story where before he stood against the giant, the king told him, "You're nobody to face this giant." And he actually said, "Hey, I've fought with lions and bears and wolves. I've defended the sheeps." You may not know the biblical story and the details, but what we do know for a fact, regardless if you know the biblical story or not, we know that David defeated Goliath. Why do we know this? Because we all at one point ourselves, we all at one point or another see ourselves as David. We all at one point or another see ourselves as someone who can't conquer, who's been called small, who's been called no good, who's been rejected, overlooked, who's been told you don't belong here. We've all at one point or another been told that, or at least have felt that way. But how do we come to the other side? How do we become victorious? How do we overcome the fear of facing giants? Well, the first thing you need to do is redefine fear. In fact, while you're redefining fear, I want to challenge you to choose your fear. I want to challenge you, choose your fear. What does that mean? Well, are you more afraid of public speaking or of not sharing your story? What are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of stepping up to the plate, or are you afraid of never having an impact? What are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of facing the giants, or are you afraid of never actually conquering? You got to pick your fear. You have to pick your fear, because you can't have it both ways and say, well, I want to conquer and not face giants. In order to conquer, you got to face giants. In order to be able to do public speaking, you have to stand in front of the crowd, and you have to trust in the preparation. Choose your fear today. What are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of what may or may not happen? Or are you afraid of looking and seeing yourself in the same place? I challenge individuals constantly, and I challenge you, my friend, who are listening. Andrew, thank you for being connected. Ramsey, Bree, thank you all for being connected. Greg's take, thank you for being connected. Margaret Isaac, thank you for being connected. I challenge individuals consistently, and I challenge you today. Challenge you today. Choose your fear. So maybe you do have fear of public speaking, but what are you more afraid of? Standing in a position where you share your story, or standing in a position where no one ever hears your story? So today I've spoken about the fear of public speaking, and I've presented to you a couple things that you can do. First, redefine fear. Right? You're going to feel fear, but redefine fear. Right? Redefine fear. As you begin to redefine fear, and as you begin to redefine your nervousness, it's not your body telling you you're going to fail. It's your body telling you, hey, what you're about to do is something you can't control. But that's okay, because what you could control was the preparation. And if you prepare, then you're ready to be here. If you've been called upon, it's because you're ready to be here. Many individuals aren't aware of what's causing them speech anxiety. And so several elements may be at play, and each individual needs to see and understand what exactly is causing them to experience the fear of speaking. So the following are the most commonly identified reasons of public speaking. Self-consciousness, right? Meaning, I don't look good. I shouldn't be on the stage. Is there still some broccoli on my teeth? Is my hair done right? The self-consciousness of how I look, right? Fear of being judged. Are people gonna say anything because, I got some Payless shoes? Like, are people gonna say anything because I don't have a 4-piece tuxedo? Or what are people going to say when I start speaking? Right? Fear of being judged. Fear of coming across as nervous. I hope nobody sees that I'm actually as nervous as can be. And the fear of that actually paralyzes people from actually beginning to speak. Another reason why people may feel the feeling or anxiety of public speaking is the failure in the past. Meaning, I failed one time, so who's to say I won't fail again? I didn't accomplish it once, so who's to say I'll accomplish it again? Another reason is imaginary failure, meaning this isn't going to work out. What if they don't like me? What if they don't accept me? I'm gonna stumble on my words. I'm not gonna be enough. But one reason that is often overlooked, and it's the one that you can actually control, is insufficient planning. Insufficient planning. This is why, if you've been connected with me here in this talk, I've been saying you need to control what you can control. You can't control what happens in that moment, meaning I can't control how the audience receives my talk, but what I can control is how I prepare, how I plan. And if I've prepared adequately, then even in the moment when I feel nervous or question, should I be here? I can always turn back and say, no, 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 I belong here. I've prepared. They called my name. I'm here. I'm ready to go. The second thing you can begin to do, redefine fear. We've already mentioned that. Again, redefine fear. And then you want to go ahead is meditate and visualize. Not just think about the moment you've succeeded, but see yourself succeeding today. And one powerful thing that you can begin to establish right now is a positive affirmation. And as you begin to establish a positive affirmation, this will actually help you to conquer and continuously get your mind in the right place. Hey, I want to say thank you to all of you who are connected here. And I want to encourage you here on the Wisdom app to please consider following, subscribing, checking out the other talks that I've had, other questions I've answered. And if you have a question, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer. I'd be happy to connect. And if you want to check out my podcast, which a new episode drops every Thursday, it's Strategy Rewind. Again, it's Strategy Rewind. There's a link connected to my bio, so you can check it out there, or head over to miguellebron.com to read my blogs, check out videos and audio information. Thank you so much for being connected. Surround yourself with people that nourish your vision. And again, the only way to have victory is to confront the giant. So see yourself as the victor. See yourself with your hands raised in the air. All right, be of blessing and be blessed.